In the first part of this story, a strikingly pretty young woman was made to run mad as a consequence for having illicit affairs with a married man whose wife sought for help from a traditional herbalist. She ended up walking the streets on barefoot, started sleeping in uncompleted buildings and even sometimes in bus stops in tattered clothes in a town just outside Johannesburg, South Africa. She was taken advantage of by different people and ended up becoming pregnant in addition to her mental case. But what happened to her after some time? She got healed of her mental challenge and became normal again. How did that happen? Who or what was behind it? Was the herbalist that was responsible for her madness involved? If yes, how? What about Mfo and her husband? What happened to them? Please read on to get answers to the questions above and even more details in this second part of the mad woman's story and how she became saved. Thandika, as usual, continued to walk the streets on barefoot and tattered clothes, with the people usually pointing at her and some simply gossiping about her while others openly laughed at her. Children would sometimes throw cans and other things at her and run away as she pursues them in return. As for Mfo, she continued to seek a solution to her husband's illness but to no avail, as the Sangoma continued to give her herbal medicines that seemed to make the situation worse for her. This was, of course, a way to continue to have her come to his house so that he can continue to take advantage by sleeping with her on each occasion. At a stage, he even stopped collecting money from her, and so the payments were made in bed each time she visited. This continued until the husband eventually died from this strange illness that was difficult for anyone to properly explain. When Mfo reported her husband's death to the herbalist, he only consoled by helping her with some support for the burial and, of course, more or less, turned her into his wife by making her stay with him longer than usual for his evil deeds to continue with her. Mfo, however, had secretly decided to take vengeance for what the evil man had done to her family and pretended to enjoy his advances, which had gradually become like a right for him. But then, the question was, how can a simple village woman like her take vengeance on such a powerful Sangoma who was feared all over the town and even beyond? In what way can she teach him one or two lessons about the power of a woman who is in the kind of pain she had found herself? Thandika, on the other hand, continued to sleep in various uncompleted buildings in the town. She feeds on what people who had compassion for her provided now and then. She sometimes, however, had to steal from food stores and run away whenever she was hungry and had nothing to eat. She also continued to be taken advantage of by some of those who continued to secretly come to where sleeps at night with unhealthy gifts such as alcohol and some other things that makes it easy for them to get close to her and have their way with her. As fate would have it, a man in his early 40s who goes by the name Lethabo was passing by a bus stop one day when he saw Thandika sitting on the ground there in her tattered clothes. Lethabo realized something must be seriously wrong for such a pretty lady to become this mad, and whatever it was could not have been ordinary. His spirit went out to her and he decided that he would try to help her in any way he could. He became a regular supplier of food items to Thandika and monitored her movements until he discovered where she stays at night. He was so touched by her situation that he reported it to his pastor, who saw the concern in him for this strange lady. He was then advised to find out her name and try also to snap a photo of her and bring it to the pastor. Lethabo did exactly that, printed the photo and gave it to the pastor. It was agreed that they would fast on her behalf for 40 days as well as pray together over her photo for that same period. Lethabo was also given anointing oil which he rubs on his hands whenever he was taking food to the mad young woman. He manages to touch her hands with his oily ones as he gives her the food items, usually in a nylon bag. This continued for the period of fasting and prayers being made for her by this good-hearted man and his compassionate pastor. Sometime in between this period, Thandika got visited once again by Sangoma Katlego, the herbalist, late at night with his usual aim of taking advantage of the pretty young woman. This time around, to his surprise, the mad woman was comfortably eating food that was not only having a very delicious scent but seemed very expensive and of course attractive. He made the mistake of trying to touch the nylon bag containing the rest of the food the young woman was eating. Thandika sprang at him like a lioness, knocking him to the ground, seriously biting the hand that had touched the nylon bag. Sangoma Cat Lego was so surprised that he could not believe what had just happened to him. He however noticed that his hand was bleeding seriously from the bite, and anger swirled in him, and he decided to attack the young woman in retaliation before taking advantage of her. In the fight that followed, she grabbed at and cut his necklace of carved bone and feathers, as well as one of his amulets, which was a taboo for a Sangoma. He was very perplexed at this stage, knowing the consequences of what had just happened. To make matters worse for him, she was shouting at him in such a loud voice that he had to find a way to escape from the scene as fast as possible. There was no time to recover his lost properties. He managed to sneak his way out of the area undetected and got back home only to realize that his major source of powers, the necklace and amulet, had been left behind in that uncompleted building. How was he going to get them back? Of course, he dared not go back to that place the same night. He decided that he would do that the following night when the mad woman would be asleep. Was he eventually able to do that? What were the repercussions of having left his source of powers behind in that uncompleted building? What happened to him when he got back home where Mfo had been waiting for him? What about Thandika? What happened to her after that fight? What did she do to the broken necklace with the carved bone and feathers? And the cut amulet? Answers to these questions are already on their way in part 3 of this thrilling and educative African folklore story. Please stay tuned as we bring you part 3 in a few days from now. If you have enjoyed this thrilling story so far, please take a moment to encourage us by liking, sharing it and subscribing to this channel right now so as to encourage us to do more. Thanks for visiting the Myths and Stories from Africa channel.